So today, we are diving into Chinua Achebe's absolute masterpiece, Things Fall Apart. We're going to trace the story of its unforgettable protagonist, Okonkwo, a man whose rise to greatness is, well, it's matched only by the tragic flaw that seals his fate, and really the fate of his entire world.
The book kicks off with this incredible image. A single sentence that tells you everything you need to know about Okonkwo's status. He isn't just known. His fame is a force of nature, hot, fast, and spreading like wildfire. But who exactly is the man behind this massive reputation?
Well, in his Igbo community of Umuofia, Okonkwo is basically the living embodiment of success. He is everything his society values: strength, wealth, and this really uncompromising idea of what it means to be a man.
And look, his fame wasn't just handed to him. It was built on what the book calls solid personal achievements. And they aren't kidding. As a young man, he threw the unbeatable wrestler Amelines the Cat. From there, he built a life as a wealthy farmer, a feared warrior, and a respected leader, even chosen as an emissary for his clan. He earned every single bit of it.
His physical presence? It perfectly matched his reputation. Achebe doesn't just describe a strong guy. He describes this coiled spring of aggressive energy. He walks like he's about to pounce. It's this constant, visible reminder of his impatient and, let's be honest, fierce personality.
But for all his success, for all his power, Okonkwo is driven by something much deeper. He's haunted by this deep-seated fear, and it all comes from the shadow of one person, his father. You see, it's not war or gods or the dangerous forest that Okonkwo is most afraid of. His greatest terror, it's inside him. It's the fear of failure, and more than anything, the fear of being seen as weak. This is the engine that drives his entire life and ultimately his tragedy. And that fear has a name. It's a single word, Agbala. When he was just a boy, a playmate taunted him by calling his father this. And the word was a profound insult. It meant a man with no titles, a nobody, essentially a woman. That term becomes a ghost that follows him for the rest of his life. This really lays out the core conflict of his life. His father, Unoka, was a gentle soul who loved music and just hanging out with people. But he was also lazy, terrible with money, and absolutely terrified of war. So what does Okonkwo do? He builds his entire identity to be the polar opposite. Anything Unoka valued, Okonkwo despises with a passion.
And here's a classic Onoka moment that just captures his character perfectly. When a neighbor came to collect a debt, Onoka just laughed, pointed to all the chalk marks on his wall representing all the money he owed, and cheerfully said, "I shall pay my big debts first." You know, it's almost charming, but for his son, it was the ultimate symbol of shame.
And this right here is the final disgrace that Okonkwo is running from. Because Onoka's illness was seen as an abomination. He wasn't even given a proper burial. He was just abandoned in the evil forest. This shameful end is what fuels Okonkwo's relentless, lifelong drive to be everything his father was not. So, Okonkwo's rigid, fear-driven identity is about to be put to the ultimate test, and it comes in the form of a young boy named Ikemefuna, an ill-fated arrival who is going to change absolutely everything. Now, Ikemefuna isn't just an orphan. He's a political sacrifice. He's handed over to Umuofia to stop a war from breaking out. And by a twist of fate, this ill-fated lad is given into the care of the village's most driven and most conflicted man. For 3 years, Ikemefuna doesn't just live in Okonkwo's compound. He really becomes part of the family. He's a lively, skillful kid who becomes a role model for Okonkwo's own son, Noye, helping him become more assertive. And that bond deepens, until Ikemefuna, who has pretty much forgotten his old home, starts to call Okonkwo father. And here's the thing. Despite that harsh exterior, Okonkwo grows to love Ikemefuna like its own son. But his personal code, that lifelong war against any hint of gentleness or emotion, it stops him from ever showing it. To Okonkwo, affection is weakness, plain and simple. This internal conflict sets the stage for the story's great turning point. It's a moment where fate and character collide, where Okonkwo is tested in a way that will have devastating consequences. Consequences that don't just doom him, but in a way, they foreshadow the doom of his entire culture. Out of nowhere, after 3 years of silence, the highest spiritual authority in the clan issues a command. The old debt has to be paid. The boy must be killed. Okonkwo is even given a clear way out, a moral off-ramp. A respected elder visits him and gives him this very explicit warning. He acknowledges the bond between them and tells him directly, have nothing to do with this. But he can't do it. His tragic flaw is just too powerful. The book is so clear about it. He was afraid of being thought weak. That fear, the fear of being seen as soft, it completely overpowers his love for the boy and the elder's wisdom. So he joins the party walking into the forest.
The scene that Achebe paints here is just gut-wrenching. Ikemefuna is told he's going home. As he walks, a man strikes him from behind with a machete. And in his terror and confusion, the boy cries out and runs toward the one person he believes will save him, his father.
And in that horrifying moment, as the boy runs to him for safety, Okonkwo, and the text says he's dazed with fear of being seen as weak, draws his own machete, and he delivers the killing blow.
This brutal act of so-called strength doesn't affirm Okonkwo's manhood at all. It shatters him. Now we get to see the terrible price he pays for that choice.
He is completely broken. He doesn't eat, he drinks himself into a stupor, he can't sleep. The memory of what he did just haunts him. And the book describes his state perfectly. He feels weak, like a drunken giant walking with the limbs of a mosquito. This is not the reaction of a strong man.
And here it is, the story's central tragic irony. The very action Okonkwo took to prove his manliness has, in his own mind, turned him into the thing he despises most. He starts berating himself with that ultimate insult, Akbala. He calls himself a woman. In trying so desperately to escape his father's legacy, he has become his own worst nightmare.
You see, this act is the point of no return. It's the moment his fear of weakness causes something inside him to just break, leaving him brittle and unable to compromise. And it's this exact same rigidness that will later make it impossible for him to adapt when a new external force arrives in his land, a force that will challenge everything he knows. Okonkwo's story is this profound tragedy of a man so terrified of appearing weak that he ends up destroying the very things he loves most. And it forces us to ask a bigger question. What is the true cost when an entire culture, or even just a single person, is too afraid to bend?